Hotepu Gatekeepers. Today's video is to give you an adventure through an analysis of a principle of life, a virtue of life as understood from our high oracle. My name is King Ra Sumaba Ifagbeemi, and I am the world's first openly gay Babalao, Ifa high priest, and Kemetic royal king. I was crowned both as a high priest, Babalao, and as a king or an Oba in Africa, in Nigeria. And part of our training is to learn how to speak to the word of heaven, how to speak through the symbols of the oracle. And there are two types of readings, or two types of analyses one can do with divination. And this I teach in the advanced gold level classes of divination. When a person is marked to learn the oracles to become a diviner and a seer and a prophet, we have a very intensive training for that. It's among the gold level classes that I offer to gay men who are called to that particular profession. So the two ways that I teach looking at an oracle is from what I call pure analysis and applied analysis. The pure analysis is similar to pure mathematics, where you study the philosophy of number and of mathematical functions. You're not really solving equations, you're studying the philosophical messages of the dynamics of math. Whereas you have applied math, which is where you're studying how to do calculations and formulas. Similarly, you learn the oracle in the Golden Beetle from both a philosophical pure angle and then an applied how to do a reading in real time, how to apply the reading to an actual real life situation. Both are important, philosophy and application. The right and the left hands. Okay, we say the right hand helps the left to wash. You need both. You need both brain hemispheres to figure anything out in detail or holistically. So we're going to look into the conversation of joy, of pleasure, the pleasure principle. Pleasure is something everybody is seeking. There is no creature, no human who did not want pleasure, who did not seek happiness and some fun in life and some sweetness on this earth. So the mystery of joy and happiness is a powerful one. And it's so powerful that it must not be misunderstood, because it can kill you. The wrongful pursuit of joy and happiness and thrills can kill you. So we in Kemet would subsume a particular philosophy or theological concept under a Neteru, under a god. Each deity is really basically a dialogue between us and nature about the forces of nature. So this god you see on the screen here is named Ahi, who is the Neteru, the gay lord of joy, pleasure, sexuality, sensuality. He's more what we call the testicular side of the gay man's sexuality, the more gentle side. The more phallic, aggressive side we call the Lord Min, M-I-N, Min. But generally, we look at this deity to understand the overall dynamics of joy. What is it? How does it work? How do you handle it? Where can you find it? Where can't you find it? All of those questions he will answer. But what's not understood by many African traditions is that you see here these strokes. We go from the top down. Stroke 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a 4-stroke. And we have a single, double marking. So from top down, and any of these 4 levels could have either a single or double. Doesn't matter. This could be double, single, that's also legitimate. Okay? So this mark is what the Dogon call the Bumo, what we call in the golden beetle the Udu, what is called in the Ifa tradition, the Orisha tradition, the Odu. So the Dogon call it Bumo, called the traces of the universe. The original traces, these are called, in the Dogon system, and the Dogon are Egyptians. They are black Egyptians that migrated from East Africa, Kemet, to West Africa, Mali, when we had the white terrorists coming down to invade Kemet. The Dogon moved west to preserve their temples. So they call it the Bumo. We call it in our gay tradition the Udu, which means you command, Udu. And the Yoruba call it the Odu, which means you exert, you push, or you grow. So these markings are found all throughout Africa. You find these markings in Kemet. If you Google the town of the god of oracles and wisdom, his name is Tehuti. The name of his town was called Kremenu. It's shown by a series of stroke tick marks like this. The name of the oracle god's city in Black Egypt had these tick marks to identify his own town. So this patterning of single double strokes is all throughout Africa. Now, these Udu, these Odu, these Bumo were the first thing the supreme androgynous being spoke. Before he made the gods, like Ahi is a Neteru, he is a god. Before he made the gods, he made their spirits. So this stroke is called Oshe, shown here, Oshe. You pronounce this Oshe, Oshe, Oshe. Oshe was first created, was first spoken by the supreme androgynous being, and this became the spirit of Ahi. Inside of Ahi's heart, right here, beats this pattern, Oshe. Oshe gives the god life. The Udu came first. They were the first things created. Then the gods. And the Udu are actually gods. They are Neteru in their energetic form, not their more animal type form or human forms. But if you were to do an X-ray of Ahi, you would see this. This is his soul, his blood, his bones. So Ahi serves Oshe. The Neteru serve the Udu that are their elders. That's important. Now, so if we're calling Ahi here the Lord of Joy, and we're calling this Udu the X-ray of Ahi, then by associative mathematics, if A equals B and B equals C, then A must equal C, that this pattern is the X-ray of joy. If Ahi is joy, and this is Ahi's X-ray, therefore this X-ray must be the core dynamics of joy. So we're going to show you this, how the secrets of joy can be decoded by looking at this simple 4-stroke pattern. I've written a book many years ago on the Obi Abata, called the Obi Abata, the little oracle that goes a long way. And in that book I outline, for the first time in history, how these patterns really break down in terms of visual, looking at it visually and analyzing the pattern visually, hieroglyphically I should say. I do believe the book is available still on Amazon.com. I'm not quite certain, but I believe it is. So, if you want more details, you can reference that book. So the basic thing I'll cover here is some simple, obvious things about this pattern. Number one, It resembles a human body, a kind of abstract human form with the head, the chest, the stomach, genitals area, and the legs and feet. That's important. This top stroke is called the head of the pattern. This middle stroke is the heart, where you have your trunk, your arms, your lungs. This third stroke represents the stomach and the sexual area of your body, and here are your legs and feet. This top stroke, we say, comes from the north, because the north is top. The second stroke comes from the east, where the sun rises. So this is the north unit, east, sunrise unit. The third unit is from the west, where the sun sets. And the fourth unit comes from the south, the bottom or the earth. So the top is the north or heaven. The east is the sunrise or the self or the subject. The third unit is the west, that which is outside the self, outside the home. And the fourth unit is the ground. Of course, the ground would be in the bottom. There's a logic to this. And this second unit is the east, also called the home. The east is always symbol of the home or the self. The north always of the heavens or the head. The third unit always the west, outside the home. If east is the home here, then the west must be outside the home. If east is the self, then the west must be that which is not the self. And then finally, at the south, we have the physical world, the earth, the legs, and the body. So already we're seeing a symbolic dialogue going on here, looking at these four tiers of strokes, these four levels of a stroke. Head, chest, sexual area, stomach, feet. North, east, west, south. Heaven or the spirit ancestor world at the top. Home or the self in the east. The not self or others or outside the home in the west. And the earth, the physical body, the material world, the south. If you remember those correlates, you'll see that this binary code, this is a binary language, zeros and ones, one tick, two tick, or zeros and ones. This binary language, which is the only language that the Supreme Being will speak through. If an oracle does not have binary communication structure, it is not a tool for the Supreme Being. Lower spirits, like the tarot reading, the tarot deck, is not a binary system. It is a system of images. You don't have to read it in a binary way. So you need to be more of a mystic, more of a channel, more of a trance medium to really be excellent at that system. But I'm telling you, the Supreme Being will not speak through it. Other spirits, lower entities, lower spirits, maybe some ancestors, maybe some nature spirits, will speak to you through the tarot, but not the one most high. So that oracle is considered a low oracle to us, because lower spirits, those farther from the throne of the Supreme Being, use it. The Supreme Being talks in zeros and ones, and all the highest oracles on planet Earth have zeros and ones. The Odu Ifa, the Yijing, they are the highest oracles in the world, and they all have the binary methodology. So we have head, heart, sexual area, and feet. Okay, so now let's get into joy. The first thing is that this is a river, if you look at it from the top down. I'm going to teach you how to read this with a fractal eye, fractal geometry, chaos theory. Very African. Africans are the source of chaos spirituality, meaning complexity science, chaos theory. So we can see this as from one angle as water flowing downward. So we're seeing here that joy has a flow to it. A flow to it. But here's the key. If we look at this symbol from the top down, it's telling you joy should come from the top down. From heaven, this top unit, remember, is spirit. Heaven, the top. It's also your head or your mind. So this is telling you the greatest joy flows from heaven down to earth. This is very important. From a spiritual life, joy starts with being a spiritual person and letting the joy of the Spirit flow down into the rest of your life on earth. Already, we have left the entire Western world view of joy. We have completely left all the white countries and all the Western countries. Because in their system, joy does not start from a spiritual life. It starts from having a lot of money, a lot of houses, a lot of cars. It starts down here, the material world. And hopefully tries to go upwards. And you can read it that way. But if you read it that way, it is a reversal of the natural order. If you think having a man or a car or a lot of money or all that's going to bring you happiness, you're reading this pattern, you're reading it properly from the improper direction. So first you should become spiritual. And from the bliss of enlightenment, joy will precipitate like a river flowing down into your life. That's the first lesson. You see how we're already learning. Now, we can call this stroke smooth sailing and this stroke obstructions. So let's do that for the moment. Let's call the single stroke smooth sailing and the double stroke obstructions, a block. So look at this. Look at joy. You start happy with something, then you will lose interest or it turns on you or doesn't work out, so you become not so happy. The double stroke means darkness or blocks. The one stroke means brightness or openness and flow. So we have openness, darkness and blocks, light, darkness. Light, dark, light, dark. You see an alteration going on here, telling you joy will go through ups and downs. Joy itself, if you're not very careful, how most people will experience joy will be on and off. You're turned on, you're turned off. You're turned back on, you're turned back off. Joy can be quite fickle, as you see here. A thing starts good, then turns sour. Then maybe it's not so bad, so it's good again, but then it turns sour. You fall in love. You can't stand their habits. You try to get over their habits, say, I'm going to love you anyway. Then they give you more bad habits. Then you go back up here, oh, I'm going to try to work it out. Then they anger you again. Then you try to forgive. Then you're annoyed. This is the nature of joy. The same way the water flows here smooth, then there's a bunch of rocks trying to block that water. Then the water finds a way through, smooth sailing, then a bunch of rocks again in the river. So this is telling you there's going to always be blocks in the quest of happiness and joy, whether you're trying to be happy through your money, through a person, through some kind of attainment of a gold medal. It's going to have its sweet and bitter, then back to sweet and bitter, sweet and bitter. So don't be delusional and think that joy is going to be this, that love is going to be a constant smooth sailing experience. It never is and never will be, because this is the X-ray of love. It's true geometry. There will always be ups and then downs, peaks and then valleys. It will always flow, and sometimes it'll flow stagnating, like here. It's going to stagnate between these two rocks, this kind of barrier. Then it'll flow again. Then it'll stagnate here again. So your relationships will go through this. All the things you enjoy, let's say you go on a vacation, great time, then a lot of work. Great time, then you lose your wallet. Great time again, then you're tired. Great time, then you get stung by an anemone in the ocean. It's part of life. This is telling you the truth. You see? Now, it was said this was the last of all the Odu born, all the X-rays or the first words of the Supreme Being born. This was the last one born. That's important. Joy was the last spirit born before creation went into full throttle. What this means is that what you learn at the end of pursuing something that makes you happy, a person or an event, you learn at the end of it, the real joy was not in the person, or the money, or the award, or the Academy Award, or the gold medal at the Olympics. At first you may have thought that was what was giving you all the joy. What you learned, though, in the end, the joy came from within you. Your own head here started the process. You chose to enjoy that. So when we say the joy spirit was the last one created, what we're saying in African code language is that it's only at the end often, especially if you're not initiated, it's at the end of pursuing a thing that makes you happy or a person that you realize, oh, they don't make me happy. Finally, I realize at the end of it all, I am the source of my own joy. It's within me. And I can choose to see this as joyous or choose to see it as horrible and boring. That's in my own head. Okay? Now, this pattern we can play with. Let's play with, this is called stroke 1, 2, 3, 4, level 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just play with levels 2, 3, and 4. So kind of imagine this one's gone up top here, and we just have double, single, double. That means we have darkness surrounding light. As if all the fun, the light, the excitement is now cornered and hemmed in by dark clouds and depression, and it's not fun anymore, but I'm still stuck here. You see? The nature of joy, if you look at it from this part of the X-ray, 2, 3, and 4, tells you sometimes you're going to feel like, oh, what I started is bringing me a lot of problems. This is what happens when people start with drugs. What happens is when you do drugs or chemicals to make you happy, alcohol, drugs, tobacco, whatever, marijuana, whatever other kind of monsters and demons you swallow as swords into your body or inhale, that what they do, eventually you learn, the joy becomes locked in. You don't get a buzz. You don't feel the fix. It stagnates. You see how this unit here is stagnating between these two block units? So that's a trap of joy. If you don't get it right, what you thought would bring you joy will actually bring you a lot of sadness. So these two blocking units can either become stagnation and depression, kind of swallowing up your joy in a dark cloud, or it can be discipline. These two forces are kind of inhibiting the motion of this third unit. This third unit, notice, is in the sexual area, which is the greatest center of joy in our physiology, our gonads. Sex. You see? So we're talking about, this is a very intense joy here, so it's in the sexual part of this little man figure. And it's a strong rush. It's a real sweet flux of energy. So you can either get too involved in it, get too addicted to sex or a very intense pleasure, and these two units will block you and you're stuck in an addiction pattern, or you can turn these dark units into disciplinarians. These two are telling you, we're going to inhibit you right now, and teach you how to discipline your joy, how to have disciplined, safe sex. You can have sex, but be mature about it. Discipline it. Give it some structure and some rules, some boundaries. You see here, these two units are forcing this very highly charged happiness rush to have boundaries. You can have fun, says this Udu, but know how to control it within limits. Don't go crazy with it. If you do go crazy, then it will bind you. It will enslave you. It will stagnate you. Okay? So this Udu also is an Udu for initiation. Oftentimes, if a person gets it at a certain kind of reading, they must become initiated. Because, again, it's the same pattern. When you become spiritual, and the initiation is this ladder. If we go from the bottom up, we start in darkness on earth. We're lost, we're not happy, we don't know who we are, what our lives mean. And then we try to climb. We look for joy through certain kind of material pleasures. Then we find those don't really work anymore until we finally find initiation up here. So this is a ladder. I'm showing how to look at this very African from different points of view. So here we're climbing to the highest joy. The highest joy is initiation, which is devotion to the divine. Initiation means I am committed, I am binding myself willfully to a spiritual life. This is the greatest joy, the ladder towards the gods, or initiation. Okay? Now, what often happens when a person tries to pursue a spiritual life, a good life, being a good person, they find that sometimes they lose faith because everyone's evil pretty much. People are rotten and backstabbing and dirty. But look, that's part of understanding the flow of life. There are dark units here. And what happens oftentimes, the initiate, because life is so difficult and sometimes the magic takes a longer time to work than they want, they become despondent and they lose faith. I'm just going to have a good time and drink and smoke and booze because I die tomorrow. They can go there. You see here, we have joy. If we divide this into twos, 1, 2, and then draw a line here, and then 1, 2. So the top two half and the bottom two half. So we split it in half. This is telling you all good has to deal with darkness. That good has to triumph over darkness. And once again, good here in this lower half must triumph over darkness. Don't lose faith. If you have faith, if you have optimism, then you have a hard time and betrayal. Don't worry. It will flow back into positive thinking and faith. But that too will meet evil. Then it'll flow back up to faith. So people that receive this reading in their readings, their important readings, often have an issue with loss of faith. But that means they don't understand the flow of joy for the Supreme Being, joy for the gods. Okay? Now, this can also be the dating process, because that's a major source of joy, and happiness is the person you mate with and have sex with. So here we start out, you meet the person, ooh, they're exciting, they're wonderful, bright days. The pink cloud, the rose-colored glasses phase. Then you don't like them so much. Then you love them, then you don't. What this is actually telling you, this double stroke is a block, or it could be a test, something trying to check you. When you meet someone, they're beautiful, he's hot, he's sexy, he's charming, he's intelligent, he's kind, but you want to test him next. So first I like you, then I'm going to test you. Then if I like what you've done, I'll say, wonderful, let's hook up. But then I'm going to test you again. Now, we can play games and pretend we're in Fantasy Island and Google Land. You all do this. You all follow the truth of this pattern. You find someone that you're attracted to. then you test them in small ways. How they talk to you, how they eat, do they respect you, do they clean up their clothes after they come from work? Then you like some things, then you don't like others. We all have in our head a contract, a picture of how the person should respond in scenarios. You test them to see how well do they respond to your ways. So this reading is saying, since you're already doing it, you're already testing the one you're with, then be honest about it, be open about it. There are certain things that are game changers, certain things that are deal enders, non-negotiables, and some things you'll bend with. Test them out. Don't just fall in love. Meet the person, test them. Now meet them on a deeper level and test that level. Then you're better off. This makes you objective, because a flaw in this divine pattern is the person can be very delusional. They don't want to see these dark units in the person they love, or in the job they have, or in the project they're undertaking. They want to see all the happy, happy, joy, joy. I find this pattern is very typical. I am here in Sedona, Arizona at the time of this recording, and I find here in Sedona a lot of the so-called New Age people don't understand this pattern. They are on the dark side of this pattern. They say a lot of words like, spiritual and namaste and all that kind of thing. But when you really scratch the surface and you look at them carefully, they are kind of delusional. Many of them are on drugs, marijuana, or whatever else. It seems to be part of the culture of this hippy-dippy spiritual kind of way. But the fact they're doing drugs means there's a lot of darkness not being dealt with. There are holes. See, these are holes. Look, it's a hole. It's kind of a trap. That being enlightened or spiritual or initiated, being a spiritual person, if you're not careful, can have traps. Because you think you've worked on yourself when you haven't really dealt with your dark side. Initiation, the climbing of the ladder towards the heavens of the gods, means you must face your dark units, face your dark issues, your fears, your insecurities, and find the beauty and the happiness in yourself, the joy in yourself through your darkness. Don't go around the dark units and try to sidestep them. You must go through them and find that despite my bad habits, I can change myself, I can become a better person, and I can find that beneath that dark habit is a sweet spirit coming out in a very wackadoodle manner, in a very deranged and very imbalanced fashion. But the intent is good. The expression is insane. And I can work on that. I can fix that. So that kind of optimism fuels your ascension back up to heaven. You see? So here we have, the top unit is a wise teacher, someone from heaven, who tells you the words of heaven, because the top is heaven, the north. We have a wise teacher and a humble student. The dark unit means the yin force or the receptive force. The one unit is a yang, or the exerting force, the penetrating force. And the double unit is the receptive. You see, it's open. So we have here a teacher with a receptive student. And if the student remains receptive, the teacher will teach some more, and the student will receive more. This is the pattern showing you the joy of education. The joy of expanding your mind. Remember, the mind here is open. Happiness comes from a clear mind, an enlightened mind. But to get that, you need a teacher. And what I find in this pattern, children can't handle Oshe, meaning grown people on the outside, but childish on the inside. What they say is, well, listen, I can learn it on my own. I don't have to get an oracle. I can do it myself. I will keep my destiny even if I don't get training from a teacher. This is a guru-student relationship. Our word for guru is ku'u, K-H-U-U, ku'u, where the word guru comes from. Oftentimes the letter K and G are interchangeable in many tongues. We call it a ku, a wise man. You have to have a wise person who knows heaven and a student who wants to hear it. You need teachers, is what this is telling you. You can never climb initiation without elders. It's impossible. You see? So if you have a good teacher who teaches you heaven, and you are receptive as a good student at his feet, then one day you'll become the teacher with new students. This is the reproductive fertility dynamic of the sex god, Oshe, and Ahi, he's the sex god. That this is the reproduction of knowledge, the transference of culture from one generation to the next. So here we have the master teaching the student. And then the student will copy the top two, where he becomes the teacher and teaches the next generation. Continuity of cultural teachings and ways over generations. That's why this is very fertile Udu and deals with teaching. The elders teach the young become the next elders, and they teach the new young. You see? Now, oftentimes in this reading, we say your luck was lost. You had a love and you lost it. Things are lost that you enjoy. You see, you had someone you loved, then it got lost in the darkness. They got sandwiched between the two darks. You had a great job, then you lost it. It got sandwiched between the two darks. But this flows back up like this. You'll get it again. And the reason you lost it was you had to learn a lesson. A lesson. That's why you lost it. Okay? So we have here, like I said before, the student upon the shoulders of those before him. So you must honor ancestors in this reading a lot. You must also learn to not argue too much in this reading. It likes to flow smoothly. So if you have a block in your relationship, you want to find the way the water could smoothly go over and wear the issue down softly. These two blocks here represent problems in a relationship, problems in a project. As this is a water flow, it's telling you, well, you don't want to just bull guard the rock away. There's a way to address the issue, to go over it like water would, and slowly erode it. Don't expect all of a sudden big time changes. This says flow over the problem. Just work at it slowly like water over a rock, water over a rock, water over a rock, and slowly you wear down the problems. So don't argue in this one. Keep a sweet tongue. And the trickster god enjoys this pattern. The trickster is your clever mind, your doublespeak, your cunning nature. Because look, things keep changing. On, off, sweet, bitter, open, closed, smooth blocks, smooth block. The trickster likes to make things flip a lot and surprise you and turn on you. So he's very strong in this reading, as a rule. Okay? So you're learning life is sweet, life is bitter, life is sweet, life is bitter. You can't understand the sweet if you don't experience the bitter. You can't understand love unless you've dealt with heartbreak. After the heartbreak, you are more grateful when you find a deeper love. And that will have problems too. Then you find a higher love within that situation. And so it reproduces like fertility. Yes? So, in this reading, you must respect all rivers, for this is the flow of joy from the initiatic enlightened mind down to joy on earth. This reading is a reading of neatness. Look how very balanced and orderly it looks just to the eye. So imagine this as basically a shelf, and this as a cabinet. Shelf, cabinet. Meaning in your house, things should be on their shelves and in their cabinets, in the drawers. It's a very neat looking pattern, very pleasing to the eye. So this pattern often tells people you have to be more clean. things in their place. You must have order in your house. This is the origin of feng shui. Feng shui has a feeling in its interpretation of wind and water. Feng shui. The water. How to keep the flow of qi in your house. Well, this Oshe is also the African version of feng shui. Everything must be in their place so things have a sweet flow in your environment. Yes? This also is called the flow of blood. Because you look at it, it's a pulse. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. A heartbeat. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. When you're in love, what happens? The boom, 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 boom goes faster. The heartbeat. You see it here, almost like a heart machine in a doctor's office. Boom, boom. Up, down, up, down. Little boom, 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 boom that you get on the screen. So this is the pattern of the heartbeat, or the pattern of the flow of the blood. When the heart beats faster, the blood is moving faster. When you're in love, or you're aroused, or you're excited, boom, 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 boom. The heart goes faster, the blood rushes. The river of blood flows quicker. You see the beautiful symbolism of Africans here. So this reading can deal with blood issues. It can deal with issues of the sexual fluid, because you can see here, this can be kind of an ejaculation of sorts. You see, this could be a phallic entering a sexual area. You see the penis entering a hole, the penis entering a hole. So this is definitely issues around the genitals. It can deal with sexual issues. It could be infertility or sterility. It can be STDs. Because when the heartbeat goes fast and the blood rushes through sexual arousal, you might do stupid things like unsafe sex, which can get you all kinds of STDs. That's part of the rushing waters of sexuality. It can bring you troubles. Okay? And keeping the flow of the sexual energy healthy. That's key here. Okay? By the way, this pattern forbids abortions. If this shows up, the person must not, they're probably thinking of an abortion, but they must not get it. It is forbidden, this pattern. Because look here. You have here a baby. This is the womb. The third unit, the head, the chest, and the womb, and then the legs. Look, inside the womb here, if we make these two units, the belly, the pregnant belly, there's a life growing. This is a light unit. Light means life. These dark units mean death or blocks. Inside the belly, a light is growing. You must give it a chance to come to full brilliance. Yes? Okay. I'm again showing you how we analyze just the patterns to give insights into the pattern, into the understanding of the dynamics of relationships, happiness and joy. This can be a small thing, then it doubles to a bigger thing. A small thing, bigger thing. Telling you small things can become great. Small evil things can become a big evil. And small good things can become a great goodness. Don't underestimate small kindness, small sweet words, small niceties, or small cutting words and small cruelties can become wars. This reading can bring diplomacy or war. Yes? Okay. Then we look at the pattern in terms of gratitude. At the top should be gratitude, no matter how dark it gets. And then be grateful again, no matter how dark it gets. You see? So always look at the sunny side through all the darkness. Okay. This also talks about not coveting people's material things. Don't be greedy and covetous. Because if you do, you'll get locked into that. You see here that locking again? Where you are looking at other people's ways and you're not happy with your own way, and you become stuck in that jealousy feedback loop. If you look here, let's look at 1, 2, and 3. Just the top 3. This is you. This is the fence. This is your neighbor. This is your grassy lawn. Here's the fence. Here's the neighbor. If we look at it from the top three point of view, it's called the grass is always greener syndrome. Here you are on your lawn, looking through or over the fence and saying, oh, well, the other neighbor's lawn is more wonderful. So that's where the covetousness comes from, the kind of greed over other people's possessions. And if you keep that flow, you're going to end up with a block in the end. So don't do that. Be grateful for what you have, what your gifts are, what your talents and blessings are. And from that gratitude, more will come to you. Okay? Very, very key. Saying I'm grateful and thankful for what the universe has brought me. Both my good and bad, I'm grateful. I thank my good side, I thank my bad side. Okay? All right. So we've covered some of the main things here. And you've got to be careful of mood swings we discussed a bit before. This pattern can bring mood swings. First you're happy, then you're sad, then you're happy, then you're sad. Kind of a bipolar pattern. If you become initiated, then you learn to control your mind, control your hormones, control your spirit. And you balance out that bipolar or that very moody nature. So, I just want to give you an understanding that joy comes from the higher things of the heavens that will trickle down to all things you need, that nothing stays sweet forever, all things have their ups and downs. There's always going to be bitter in the sweet, and then sweet become bitter, and that's okay. And happiness comes from, ultimately, your own mind. You are choosing to be angry or happy with what your lover just said. They're not making you happy. You're choosing to see it that way. This tells you to keep your area clean because your environment has a feng shui effect on you. And to not be jealous and envious and addicted to things, because you'll be in this locked pattern where you can't get out and the fix is not going to be good enough, so you got to up the fix and you're deeper and deeper into addiction. And in the end you'll learn the dark external sources of joy, clubbing, dancing, crazy sex, in the end won't bring you happiness, money, material things. But flowing from the spirit down, seek ye first the joys of heaven, and then all the things of earth will be granted upon you. So, this is what the men learn in far more detail. This is a very brief introduction to these udus, these patterns. We go into far greater depth with this when a man is being trained to become a ku or diviner. And once you learn this binary code, once you learn this language of the universe, of nature, there's nothing you can't see in it. Nothing at all. Yes? In fact, I had one client that wanted to go bungee jumping. They got Oshe. Oshe says, you see the person on a high cliff here? Then they go down. Then they hit a high, they go down to the bottom. But I said, you want to be careful with this one because it ends with you getting smacked. You're going to jump your rope, your bungee cord down, but you might find you're going to get some kind of scarring or wounding physically. This is the physical earth unit. So you can read anything in these patterns. You see? You want to be careful of walking over a hole. You see here you're walking and then there's a hole. Now you won't, the first time you won't be damaged because it ends well. But if you do it again, you're going to have a problem. You can even see here, this is the shape of a car. The front of the car, then the front two tires, then the passenger area, and then the back two tires. It's a car driving along. You see that? So depending upon how the reading falls, I can see quickly you're going to have car problems on your trip. Okay? So there are many ways of looking at it. You see? And by using your African eye, you can see many, many stories, many, many storylines playing out in one pattern. And this is the key to being wise. Looking at the most simple of things from many points of view until the one that is appropriate speaks, yells, jumps out at you and says, I'm the side that you want to look at. Okay? So, I pray this helped all of you to see joy from our Golden Beetle gay perspective as seen by the X-ray of the Word of the Supreme Being. May the wisdom of heaven guide my beloved gay community, and I wish to thank the many gay, Kemetic, black ancestors from the Nile Valley who have come forth to inspire my spirit and my community spirit with the teachings of the Nile Valley. We praise those many gay African Kemetic ancestors, and we call you back. Nothing can stop the flow of the divine sweet spirits of my gay Kemetic Africans back to this time. May their sweetness flood the land of my gay community. Dwawend Hotepu.